Hello everyone and welcome to this month's episode of Jig Retro, where I'm going to attempt to show you how I built a fantastic full standing budget yet small footprint arcade machine. This was a very simple build that only took the course of about 3 days or a handful of afternoons. This was a build that I did for my brother, who's also got a huge passion for retro gaming like myself. He made me plenty of cups of tea. I hope this video inspires you to perhaps attempt to build like this yourself. I am by no means a professional carpenter and only had limited basic tools, but I do feel that I've achieved something pretty cool here. If you enjoy this episode, then please take a moment out of your time to like, share and subscribe to get the latest monthly episodes, as well as please check out my back catalogue. There's lots of good videos out there at this point. So a bit of history. In the background of all of my videos, you will always see this 1/3 size arcade sit down machine that I built a good few years ago now, and its design was inspired by the arcade 1-Up series of machines. They're readily available nowadays, even in the UK, and a fantastic budget option of home arcade. After some thought, I realised that I may actually be able to build something similar for myself, so I made the plans, bought all the bits, and now you can see the results. It all runs from a Raspberry Pi running RetroPie, which I already had, some old computer speakers that I rescued from a tip, a TV monitor that I got from a charity shop, and some relatively budget-friendly double USB arcade sticks that I think I got from eBay. I'm really pleased with the final result, but I wish I'd have used some thinner MDF, as this thing weighs a ton, and I may have rushed some of the finishing touches slightly, as I was really excited to play with my new toy. I like that it is quite bulky because as a game collector it gives me quite a bit of storage at the back. My brother did not want this same design, so I had to start from scratch. My brother's build started with a few images that he sent me for inspiration, and I actually thought that these images that he sent me looked quite interesting and actually a relatively simple build. My brother already had a pre-installed Pandora box twin arcade stick, already had a computer monitor going spare and some computer speakers to use. So all I really had to do was take a load of measurements, make some plans and build him a box around all these things. This actually worked out relatively cheap for him all in all. In the planning stage, all the measurements for the arcade cabinet had to be taken from the arcade sticks, as this was the widest and biggest item to work around. If you'd like to attempt this build yourself, then I highly recommend taking really accurate measurements of the base of the arcade sticks that you intend on using. My brother also quickly decided that he wanted thinner wood than mine at 12mm thick MDF. So this had to be accounted for in all my plan making. I drew up my plans on a piece of A4 paper to a 10cm to 1cm ratio, as in every 10 centimeters was 1 centimeters on the A4 page. After all the plans were made, I made a big shopping list on Wix's website for all the materials, which is a trade and DIY store. I would highly recommend doing this as a big order online delivery, because the wood is massive, and to be honest, often when you go into stores they don't necessarily have absolutely everything you need anyway. Here is a list of materials that I bought, and here is a list of tools that were needed. I copied out my plan onto the large MDF board and began sawing out the pieces by hand. After a solid afternoon of cutting out all the pieces, I left for home and suggested that I put it together in a couple of weeks' time. During this time, my brother's Pandora box broke. After a quick bit of troubleshooting, I decided that it was probably worth replacing the motherboard, as all of the wood was cut and made to measure for that particular arcade stick. So I ordered one as soon as possible from China. This took about a month to arrive and I fitted it into my brother's system. All the controls and power luckily fitted in just like the old one. I guess they are as standard, and actually this is a bit of an upgrade to my brother's old Pandora box, so he was pleased. Anyway, back to the build. So I decided to saw some long strips of wood and glue them behind the line of the bottom front panel. Once these dried, I worked on getting it stood up and in place with the front panel. Almost all of the screws on this build go in from the side panels. Therefore, because you are aiming for such a thin bit of wood, I would suggest that it's best to use the 1.2mm edge of your panel and draw lines either side of it onto the internal part of the side panel, and then sketch even spaced marks for drill holes and pre-drill the side panels first. Then once my brother stood it up and held it in place, all I had to do was pass the drill back through the same hole from the outside into the panel and pop the screws in. As far as goes drilling and screwing MDF, I would definitely recommend caution. Too much drilling and your screw will almost certainly slip. Too little drilling and the wood will definitely split. I then put boxing around the joysticks. As you can see, it measured up perfectly so that the metal base of the sticks fits inside, and it is held at the top by the plastic from the sticks overhanging the wood on 3 of the sides. I then slotted this over the wood frame while my brother held it in place, which in theory would be slap bang in the middle of the full height, and with the use of a spirit level to get it flat, I then drilled it and screwed it in place. To stop the joysticks slipping around slightly, I butted the back of the plastic at the top of the joysticks against the side panels of the cabinet. I then added a small middle shelf to this area for both structure and something for my brother to rest his speakers on. Now for the monitor surround, which was admittedly pretty tricky to get my head around, but if you follow this advice you will be fine. I actually used a piece of cut-off doing the screen in this manner, as it wasn't part of my original plan. Basically it was the same width as all of the internal parts of the panel and as tall as I wanted it, while leaving room for the marquee. Basically, lay the screen panel piece of wood down and place the monitor exactly where you want it to be, ensuring that the edges are even throughout. Then draw around the whole monitor. Once this is done, measure all the bezels on the monitor and subtract that from the initial pencil marks. This will leave you with a box to cut out inside the initial box that you drew around the monitor. I cut this out as carefully as possible using a jigsaw. Top tip, start by drilling big holes on the internal corners of what you want to cut out to get the jigsaw blade in. I then sandwiched the monitor between 2 bits of wood on the top and bottom and some basic cast iron handles from side to side. I then used these handles to attach a basic Velcro strap to brace the monitor up against the frame. I forgot to mention that I put a strip of wood along the top of the structure that would act as the top of the marquee, and another strip that you can see in this image just under the middle shelf for additional support. We plugged it all in, monitor speakers, Pandora box arcade sticks, and gave it a whirl. It was brilliant. This is pretty much where my story of the arcade machine ends, but my brother continued undercoating and painting the whole thing white to match his other furniture. He did a really neat cardboard black frame around the screen and added some fantastic LED strips to really make it pop. Now all that is to be done is the marquee, which my brother is hoping to save up for and get done professionally. He will add more LEDs behind it to make it glow like a proper arcade marquee. Now it's just time to enjoy and kick his ass at some Street Fighter Alpha. hope you've enjoyed this video and that it inspires you to maybe build an arcade machine of your very own. For a gamer geek like myself, it's a fantastic thing to have around the house for when friends are over. And like the differences between mine and my brother's, you can edit the plans to suit your needs and your house. My brother's is a more slimline stand-up one, and mine is a big bulky sit-down one. To be honest, my brother's build was a much more simple design if you're not feeling particularly confident, and that's one of the reasons why I've covered it in this video. Please feel free to ask absolutely any questions down below in the comment section, or for more clarity on any of the aspects of the build. I'll do my very best to answer them for you in a timely manner. As always, until next time, much love. Please look after yourselves and each other and get your geek on with Jig Retro.